In this video, we are going to be creating a cutout practice. This actually has more than 5 images in it, and you're going to find these images inside your folder, in your classes folder, in your own folders. This is an example here. In your project 4, inside there, what we have started with was the cutouts like this, which you're familiar with. You can only start this new practice here if you've done this so far, so you've learned the cutout tools. And then I have put in here a folder of pictures. There's actually more than 5 in it. I believe there's 7 in it. Yep. And we're going to create this by using these images. After you finish this, you can then go on to creating your own. The rules for your own are listed in this Word document here, which you can see on the screen. I'm also going to have printouts of this in class so you can follow up. So, when you create your surreal project, you must have 20 images in total. 5 images of objects, 5 images of human figures, 5 images of nature or things from nature. It gives you examples for each one. I'm not going to go over it now to save time. 1 image of a background, 4 textures or materials. Now, it says for the background, this background should have a foreground, middle ground, and background. And we're going to talk about this in class more, and I'll show you examples. Just be sure you're reading all of this and trying to include what we talked about in class, which was odd, illogical, irrational, exciting, or disturbing types of images. And to put them in such a way where we'll create that. You can use juxtaposition, dislocation, or transformation, or a combination of all 3 would be fine. So, how do we do this? First, we go to Photoshop. Then we go to File. We go to New. Once this comes up at the top here, you'll see all the presets. Click on Print. When you go to the Print preset, you're going to see letter size, 8.5 by 11 and 300. We're going to hit Create. Here's the new page. It's got nothing on it so far. You go back into your folder, you go into that folder, and the first one we're going to work with is this that has the background and the tree we're going to open with Photoshop. Once it comes up, you pull it apart. We're going to take the Move tool here and take the whole thing, click, drag, drop. Once you've dragged it in with the Move tool, you can close out the original. And now here it is on our new piece. Now I'm just going to keep this one real small off in the corner so we can kind of keep an eye on it. Alright, and we can look at what the original one looks like. This is what we're trying to get to. Okay, so back to here. You can see here in the layers, I have layer 1 and I have a background that's white. This layer 1, this is the tree with the background. So I'm going to call this, double click it and call it background. We got to get used to naming our layers. We had done it in our first project of the year. You must continue doing it now. So we're going to call this background, we'll call it background 2. Or you can name it whatever you like. All right, we need to make it bigger. You notice that the one in the picture is much, much bigger. So to make it bigger, edit, free transform, just like you did with your letters in the last project. You'll see a box gets put around it. I'm going to hold Shift and Option and pull from the corner. And then I can move it. Now, if I hit Command minus, I can see it a little bit better. This way I can kind of pull and maybe stretch it out even more. Pull it right about there or so. Looks good. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, as long as you're close, that's all I care about. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. I made it pretty close to what it looks like there. All right, back to the folder now. This time what we're going to do is go down to this tree.png file. We're going to open that with Photoshop. Now you'll notice when this one opens up that there is no background. So a lot of PNG files will have already no background, which means it's already cut out for you, which is quite a treat, and you won't have to do much work on that one. You'll notice that on the list here, it will tell you that you can only use up to a certain amount of PNG files if I put it on there. If I didn't, I will discuss in class. So you can really only use about 2 or 3 of these already cut out ones, PNG files. And you got to keep them in your folder so I can see which ones you've already used. All you have to do here is take the Move tool, drag and drop right in, and it's already cut out for us. I'm going to go back to the original, close it out. Now this one, what do we want to do? Well, in this picture here, you see it's upside down, and it's just the top of it is kind of showing. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to do Command T. Right click. I could rotate it. So it's upside down. I can pull it like this. Now this one looks a little wider, so I'm just going to hold Shift and Option. Pull from the corner. Increase the size of it. Move it up a little bit. That looks good. I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to go back in the folder. This time I'm going to go to the city. Right click, open with Photoshop. Now here's where it starts to get a little bit more complicated, just a little. We're going to pull it apart, as always. Now what I want is just the black of the city in here. Now I don't want the orange color of the sky. So, using the tools that you know from the practice that you did, you can do quick selection or magic wand tool or a combination of any of the tools. So I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to use the magic wand tool. Up at the top, the tolerance number, the higher the number, the more it's going to grab. So I am going to click on the black area here, and it grabs most of it. You notice that it left out a couple of these little dots that have colors in them. So you could switch to any tool. Doesn't matter. Any selection tool. Go to the top here. You can select add or subtract to add. So I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to actually add these little pieces so they disappear. So it all picks it up. Anywhere where you see those, you can kind of pick it up. You'll also notice that at the top here, if I just zoom in a little bit, I missed this little top piece of the Empire State Building. So you can take, again, any of the tools, hit the add button, and you can kind of click, 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 and add this piece. You've already practiced these in the last project, in the last practice, all right? So I selected everything, and now I'm ready to move it over. Now, two ways that you can do it. You can take the move tool straight up, click, drag, and drop right in, and that will do it. Or, just like you practiced in the last project, you can, with the selection tool, right-click, layer via cut, and you see it separated them here in the layer. So all I have to do is take this layer 1 and drag it right into my new project. Once there, I can use the move tool, and I can move it to the bottom. What I want you to do when you bring it to, first get rid of this one so it doesn't get confused, okay? But this one now, you're going to make it bigger first. So Command T, hold Shift, make it bigger. Then we're going to right click and do perspective and make it look like it's kind of coming at us. All right, that's what this one looks like in the background here. So that's what we're trying to do. Something like that, as close as you can kind of get it. You might have to rescale it and bring it back down in size a little bit. That's fine, and kind of move it over. But that's what we were trying to get to. All right, back to the folder. This time what I want to do is I want to use the ocean, right click, open with Photoshop. When it opens up, pull it apart. This I want the whole thing, so I'm just going to take the move tool, click, hold, drag, and drop right on. Now once it's here, I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. I'm going to do edit and free transform. Hold shift, pull to about there or so. But now I really need, it's at an angle, the landscape, the grass here, right? The foreground stops right about here and kind of goes at an angle. So I'm going to right click and do distort so I can pull this one up a little, this one over, and this one over. All right? And I'm going to hit OK. Now I want it to go underneath the city, so I'm going to pull layer 3 underneath the city. And by the way, you see here I have layer 1, layer 3, layer 2, right? But I really need to name them. So this one is city, double click it, name it city. This one is water, name it water. This one is extra tree, or it looks like broccoli. We're going to call it broccoli. Okay, and now the water layer here, what I'd like to do to this layer is start to change the blending mode of this layer so we can see through it into the grass that's underneath it. So we go to the water layer, we click, and we start to change it. Now we're going to find one that we like. No, I don't like that one. How about screen? That's not bad. Overlay. Overlay is nice because it's kind of the best of both worlds sort of thing. Now, in order for us to color it and change its color a little bit, a nice way to kind of do that is to double click. This is just one of the ways. Double click, go to color overlay now, and here you choose the color and then you can choose the blending mode that it chooses with. So I'm going to actually keep it at hue for the blending mode, and then the color is up to you. You can, as long as it's a red, it's fine. All right, we hit OK, and you see it's kind of made that red. All right, nice job. If I zoom in here, yeah, it looks pretty good. I could always move it down just a little bit. That looks good. I could even do Command T and kind of rotate it just a little. Perfect. All right, next step, back to the folder. This time we have to get the cup. We're going to right click, open the cup with Photoshop. Once that's opened up, you're going to pull it apart. We're going to take now the quick selection tool, and what I can just do is make sure I'm on a new selection at the top with the quick selection tool. I'm going to click and drag and grab just the cup and not the background. So I got just the cup now. Perfect. I take the move tool, click, hold, drag, drop. You can use any of the selection tools, by the way, whichever one you like the best. If you would rather use the magic wand or quick select or any of the other ones that we covered in the video, you are welcome to try. So I put this in here. Here's the cup. Here's this strange out of place cup that kind of looks like it shouldn't belong. And we're going to place it right about there or so. We can do Command T on it, make it a little bit smaller. And now what I want to do is I want to put it behind the fence. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to also, by the way, I'm going to call this cup and then go down to the bottom where the background is. So I have to be on the background for this part. I'm going to hide the cup for a moment. Go to the background, background 2. Take the magic wand tool, click right on the fence, and you see it selects it. And actually, mine selected the whole bottom and the tree. And the reason it did that is because I have the tolerance set at 80 at the top. If you have yours lower, it won't work the same. Okay, so put it at 80 and click and grab the whole thing. We're going to right click on this and we're going to do a layer via copy, not cut, but copy. So you can see here on layer 1, this is fence and tree. It's actually just a copy of what's here. It didn't remove it from background 2, it just made a copy of it. Now, I take the cup, I turn the cup on. All I have to do is take this cup layer and drag it underneath the fence and tree. And you see it'll kind of go behind the fence. And you could still move it, you know, as long as you have the move tool, you can move it wherever you like and kind of get it in place. Then we're going to go back to the folder. This time we're going to go to the baby, right click, open with, Photoshop. So far the cutouts have been pretty quick and pretty easy, and they don't need to be perfect for this practice. Okay, I pull it apart. I take the magic wand tool or the quick select, whichever one you'd like to use. I'm going to use quick select. And I'm going to do the white of the background here, actually. There we go. Now I cut off a little bit of his hair here, so I can always switch to the subtract button up top and just kind of bring some of that back. All right, back to the add button up top. Click and drag. Looks excellent. Now, I selected all the white. So if I right click on this and do layer via cut, because the background was locked, it actually didn't work correctly. If I take the move tool and try to move it, it's going to move in the white piece, which is not what I want. So when you have a selection of the background, but really you want the interior piece or whatever is not selected, you go to select inverse. Now it's grabbing this piece. I take the move tool, I click, hold, drag, drop onto here. You notice it's not a perfect cutout. It let some of the pieces, little pieces of hair away, right? But it's fine for what we're trying to do here. Now, Command T, hold Shift, make it smaller. We want to make him look like he is coming out of the cup. So here, when we do Command T, we hold Shift to make him smaller. Click and drag. Put him like he's about there. We can make him a little bit larger. Now, if you look closely, he's in front of the cup right now. And if I move him under the cup, it looks like he's behind the cup and not in the cup yet. We want to make it look like he's inside the cup. So to do that, we're going to hide the baby for a second, go back to the cup layer. On the cup layer now, we have to take out this piece and put it on its own layer. So I'm going to use one of the selection tools we learned in the practice, polygon or lasso tool. I'm going to do this. Click, 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 click. I'm going to come around this edge. Click, click. I'm telling you I'm clicking here. Click, 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 click. Now it doesn't matter if I could have gone higher or lower, but this is the piece that's selected. Remember, it's only from the cup layer. I'm going to right click and cut this out, layer via cut. And so now layer 2 now has that back of the cup. So we'll call that back of cup. Okay, now what do I do with this? Well, I turn the baby on like that, and I pull the baby layer in between back of cup and cup. Actually, I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to pull back of cup underneath the baby. See that? So now the back of the cup is here, baby is here, front of the cup is here. Got that? Now, this one I'm going to label baby, so remember. All right, we're looking pretty good so far. We've got a lot of the pieces in there. Last but not least, the image that we're going to open up is this one of Jigsaw. When you open it up, now this is the toughest cutout so far. There's lots of different colors and things happening in the background. He has this squiggly kind of gross hair. Then at the bottom, he's on a bike that has spokes where you can see through the spokes. All right, this is a tough cutout. So how do we do this one? Well, you can try any of the tools, quick select, magic wand, any of these other ones. It's fine with me. I'm going to start with quick select. I'm going to try to just select him. I'm clicking and holding. I'm not letting go until most of him is selected. I'm going slowly over his body with this tool, as well as the bicycle, his leg, his hand, his thumb, good, the rest of his head, the rest of his hair. Okay, and the rest of the bike on this side. Now you'll notice it is not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect yet. We have to make it perfect. We have to add some things to it and fix it up a bit. Here I'm going to continue to add the bicycle. Good. I think we have pretty much everything. Now, here's the thing. We have to make the selection perfect before we bring it in, or a little bit more perfect. So switch to any of the tools that you want, lasso, polygon, magnetic, whatever you'd like. You can hit the add button or the subtract button. So in this case, you see at the top here, I got too much of this background by accident. So I'm going to use the subtract button, and I'm just going to do this. Make a selection of the part that I want to get rid of, and let go. So same thing here, like if I cut this a little higher, it'll cut it out. It'll cut it out. All right, so now if I want to get this piece, I could subtract this piece. And it'll leave that little gap for me. Over here, I could switch back to the quick selection tool. As long as I hit the subtract button, I could subtract out this little piece. I can go over here, I could subtract this little piece. I could go over here and subtract this little piece. All right, little by little, you start to break it down. Now, these are way more complicated down here. You would use the polygonal lasso, and again, subtraction button, and you go like this, click, click, click. This is a tough one. All right, now once I hit all those things, and I can continue to do all of them as long as they don't touch each other. All right, now once you're done with all of them, you are going to hit delete. I'm sorry, not delete. 1 second. Once it looks all kind of good to you, all right, you can, oh, I got to get rid of this. Oh, and if it doesn't work the way you're thinking, you switch between the add or the subtract. So I'm going to add. Okay, so we have this selection, right? All right, I'm going to take the move tool and move it over onto my project. Then I'm going to close out of this one. So here it is. I know it's hard to see, right? I'm going to bring him down like that. You can do Command T and kind of rotate him a little bit. You can make him smaller, hold Shift to make him smaller. Right, now as you zoom in on him, if there's any mistakes, that's where you take your other selection tools, you make little selections, right? You hit delete, and you get rid of pieces. It's easier to kind of do it that way, where you start out with a big selection and then you go back in and you refine it later. You just kind of fix it up. Looks like there's a little halo of white around him. You can get rid of that. Just kind of stay on this with one of the selection tools and hit delete. It'll get rid of that little bit. It'll make it look cleaner. That's what you want to try to do on your own. This is why we are practicing. You have to kind of get good at these so that when you do your own, you get some really nice cutouts. Now, again, we didn't cut out the whole tire, but that's okay. This is just practice. But when you do your own, you'll care more about the cutouts, okay? Now, last but not least, the one thing that ours is missing that this one has is it has the word Creepy Dream at the bottom. So I'm going to take the text tool. I'm going to click. I'm going to go to the top layer. I'm going to click. I'm going to type in Creepy Dream. Now, yours is going to have some kind of title, but you can make it whatever you'd like. I'm going to select the words up at the top here. You see I chose Acquaintance. You can choose whichever one you'd like. I chose this one because it looked a little bit scary. It chose whatever color you'd like. I chose this like blue. I hit OK. Right-click, rasterize like you're used to doing from your second project of the year. Move this down. Then we do Command T, right-click, perspective. I tried to make it go a little bit in the same perspective as the buildings. I hit OK, and then I double-click the layer, and I just put on it a little stroke, and I put it on the outside. I made it red. I changed it to pin light, and you can see here you can increase the size of it. You can change the opacity of it. There's a lot of stuff that you can kind of do, so you can kind of play with that on your own. All right, that is done. You're going to save that file to your folder as the surreal practice. All right, it's going to do a file save as, and then name it up top here. You're going to name it surreal practice and save it to your project 4 folder.